The woman simply told her mother-in-law that she wanted to go back to her parents' house for the new year. Her husband immediately pulled over to the service area. He then roughly dragged his 13 months pregnant wife out of the car. Under the malicious influence of his mother, the family abandoned the woman at the highway service area and drove away without a second thought. They didn't care at all that the woman was chasing after them. They left her to lie on the ground, struggling with severe abdominal pain. Little did they know, the family was about to deeply regret their actions, because the woman's father was the world's richest man, and her 3 older brothers were already on their way to pick her up. Just 2 hours ago, the man, who was still a small office worker, was happily preparing New Year's goods, getting ready to spend the new year at his wife's family's house. For 3 years of marriage, his wife had never once gone back to her parents' home. The wife had also been observing her husband for the past 3 years. Now, with 5 months of pregnancy, she was planning to reveal her true identity as the daughter of the wealthiest man as soon as they arrived home. At that moment, her father called, saying he was preparing to slaughter some home-raised chickens to welcome them. But the younger sister-in-law overheard, and, in disgust, thought the woman's family were all from the countryside. The woman didn't mind, and stepped aside with her phone to chat with her father. Her father mentioned that he had acquired the company where her husband worked, and planned to make him the company's vice president. He thought this would make the man treat his daughter better, but little did he know, this move would lead his daughter to suffer greatly. Soon, the man's phone received a notification about the upcoming promotion. They thought this was a blessing from above. The family began planning to secretly return to their hometown to share the good news with their villagers, and to bow deeply in front of their ancestors. Unknowingly, the woman was tricked into getting into the car by the family. Meanwhile, the woman's parents had prepared gifts worth tens of millions of dollars to welcome their daughter and her family. Even her 3 brothers had put aside their important work to go to the service area and greet their sister for the new year. At this point, the woman was already on the highway, and she noticed the car was heading toward her husband's hometown. The husband explained that there were unexpected circumstances, and promised they would visit her family for the new year next year. At this moment, the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law began to criticize her. The woman finally realized they were all hiding the truth from her. So, she warned her husband that he would regret this. She took out her phone, intending to call her brothers to come pick her up. But the sister-in-law snatched the phone away, and told her not to make a scene and to quietly spend the new year at her in-laws. The woman, frustrated, reached out to grab the phone back. Her usually mild-tempered husband, now full of pride from his promotion, was impatient and drove the car into the service area. Once the car stopped, the husband went straight to the passenger seat, roughly pulled her out of the car, and warned her that if she continued to make a scene, he would leave her in the service area. Just then, the woman's 3 brothers, on their way to pick her up, called her, but the sister-in-law hung up the phone and turned it off. The mother-in-law, wanting to teach her daughter-in-law a lesson, had her son and daughter return to the car, leaving the pregnant woman in the service area. But halfway, the man suddenly stopped, considering that if he got promoted and went home without his wife, it would be embarrassing for the family in the village. So, he turned back to the service area, and brought the unconscious wife back into the car. Unluckily, just as the family was leaving, the woman's 3 brothers arrived at the service area. The unconscious woman woke up and found they had arrived at her husband's hometown. She immediately tried to grab her phone to call her brothers, but her husband, now a completely different person, snatched the phone away and smashed it. The woman, alone and trapped, had no choice but to yield and comply with them. The villagers stated that, according to family tradition, the husband should lead the ceremony, and the wife must kneel 3 times and bow 9 times in front of the ancestral tablet to pray for blessings for the entire village and her husband. To teach the disobedient daughter-in-law a lesson, the mother-in-law deliberately poured shards of glass and hot coals on the ground, forcing her to walk over them.